The evening began like any other, with the soft glow of the TV casting flickering shadows across our living room. I sat on the couch, half listening to the news, while Elizabeth busied herself in the kitchen. It was then that I noticed her old phone peeking out from a half-open drawer in the desk. It was an older model, one I hadn't seen her use in years. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a look. Unlocking it was easy. She'd always used simple passwords. As the home screen lit up, I felt a strange pang of nostalgia, remembering the early days of our relationship when that phone was new. But as I started to scroll through her messages, that nostalgia quickly turned to something darker. There it was, buried among mundane conversations with friends and family, a thread of messages with someone named John. My heart skipped a beat as I read the first few lines, innocent enough at first, but rapidly growing more intimate and explicit. A sense of dread settled in my stomach as I realized these messages dated back 10 years. The shock was overwhelming. My wife, the woman I had trusted and loved, had been betraying me for a decade. Each message was a dagger to my heart, a testament to her deceit. I read on, unable to tear myself away from the screen, each word burning itself into my memory. Days turned into nights as I sat in that darkened living room, absorbing the full extent of her infidelity. I stopped eating and sleeping. My mind was consumed by a swirling vortex of anger, hurt, and confusion. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so effortlessly for so long? One particularly sleepless night, as I stared into the abyss of our darkened home, a cold clarity washed over me. I could not let this go unpunished. Elizabeth had to feel the same pain, the same crushing betrayal. I would make sure of it. From that moment on, I began to plan. First, I gathered evidence, screenshots of the messages, photos, videos, and anything that could prove her guilt. I created a meticulous archive of her betrayal. With each piece of evidence I collected, my resolve hardened. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I reached out to a private investigator, Mark, who specialized in infidelity cases. Together, we followed Elizabeth and John, documenting their every move. Mark's professionalism and detachment provided the distance I needed to remain focused on my goal. Financially, I started to secure my position. Quietly, I transferred our joint savings into my accounts, ensuring that when the time came, Elizabeth would be left with nothing. It was a slow process, but I was patient. I had waited 10 years to uncover her lies. I could wait a little longer to execute my plan. The climax of my preparation came with our anniversary party. I invited all our friends and family, under the guise of celebrating our enduring love. Elizabeth was none the wiser, beaming with excitement as she planned the event. Little did she know, this would be the night her world would come crashing down. As the night of the party approached, I rehearsed my speech, making sure every word was perfect. I wanted to see her face when she realized what was happening. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation and heartbreak she had inflicted on me. When the night finally arrived, the house was filled with laughter and music. Elizabeth looked radiant, basking in the attention of our guests. I waited until everyone had gathered in the living room before dimming the lights and turning on the projector. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I have a special presentation prepared, a little trip down memory lane." As the first images appeared on the screen, photos of Elizabeth and John together, the room fell silent. Gasps of shock and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Elizabeth's face went pale, her eyes wide with horror as she realized what was happening. "And this," I said, my voice growing colder, "is the real Elizabeth, the woman who has been cheating on me for the past 10 years. The room erupted into chaos. Elizabeth tried to speak, but her words were drowned out by the uproar. Friends and family turned away in disgust, their trust shattered. I felt a grim satisfaction as I watched her crumble, knowing that this was only the beginning of her fall. That night, I served her divorce papers. She lost everything, her husband, her friends, her reputation. I took our home and sold it, leaving her with nowhere to go but back to her parents. As I drove away from the house for the last time, a strange sense of peace washed over me. The past 10 years had been a lie, but now, at least, I had the truth. And with that truth came the power to start anew, free from the shadows of Elizabeth's betrayal. The days following the anniversary party were a blur of legal proceedings and emotional turbulence. Elizabeth moved out almost immediately, her belongings hastily packed into suitcases and boxes. Our home, once filled with warmth and laughter, now felt like a hollow shell, echoing with memories of what once was. The divorce process was swift, thanks to the overwhelming evidence I had gathered. Elizabeth didn't contest it. How could she? The proof of her infidelity was irrefutable, and she knew it. The settlement left her with little, just enough to cover her basic needs. I had ensured that most of our assets were secured under my name, leaving her financially devastated. While Elizabeth struggled to find her footing, I focused on rebuilding my life. Selling the house was the first step. I couldn't bear to stay in a place that held so many painful memories. The sale went quickly, and I found a new, smaller house on the outskirts of the city. It was modest but cozy, a perfect place for a fresh start. Despite the chaos, I kept my routine. Work became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in tasks and deadlines. My colleagues noticed a change in me, a harder edge, a steely determination that hadn't been there before. They didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer explanations. My private life remained just that, private. In the evenings, I immersed myself in hobbies I had neglected for years. I started running again, pounding the pavement until my legs burned and my mind cleared. I picked up reading, losing myself in novels that took me far away from my reality. Slowly, I began to feel like myself again, piece by piece. Then came the meeting with John. It was inevitable. I needed to confront the man who had unknowingly played a role in my wife's betrayal. Through Mark, I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet cafe on the edge of town. John arrived, looking as apprehensive as I felt. Our conversation was tense at first, filled with awkward pauses and guarded looks. But as we talked, it became clear that John had been as much a victim of Elizabeth's deceit as I had. He had no idea she was married, believing her to be a single woman looking for companionship. The realization that he had been manipulated also softened my anger towards him. By the end of our meeting, I found a strange sense of camaraderie with John. We were both casualties of Elizabeth's lies, both struggling to make sense of the betrayal. We parted ways on civil terms, each of us determined to move forward and leave the past behind. But my need for revenge wasn't fully sated. I wanted Elizabeth to feel the humiliation I had felt, to experience the pain of public exposure. I waited for the right moment, tracking her movements with the help of Mark. It was in her favorite cafe, surrounded by people who knew her, that I made my move. I walked in, straight to her table, and without a preamble, I began to recount her infidelity in a loud, clear voice. The cafe fell silent as heads turned, and Elizabeth's face flushed with shame. She tried to escape, but I followed her, relentless in my pursuit. By the time I finished, she was in tears, her reputation in tatters. With that final act of vengeance, I felt a heavy weight lift from my shoulders. It wasn't a perfect solution. It didn't erase the years of deceit, but it gave me a sense of closure. Elizabeth had paid a price for her betrayal, and now it was time for me to fully move on. Selling the house provided me with the funds to start anew. I found a charming cottage on the outskirts of town, surrounded by trees and open space. It was a world away from the life I had known, but it was exactly what I needed, a place to heal and rebuild. Months passed, and slowly, I began to open myself up to new possibilities. I attended social events, reconnected with old friends, and even joined a local book club. It was there that I met Catherine, a kind and intelligent woman who shared my love for literature. We started as friends, bonding over our favorite books and authors. But as time went on, our friendship blossomed into something deeper. Catherine was different from Elizabeth in every way. She was honest, caring, and sincere. With her, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't known in years. She became my anchor, helping me navigate the turbulent waters of my past and guiding me toward a brighter future. Looking back, I realized that the past 10 years had been a painful journey, but one that ultimately led me to a place of strength and resilience. Elizabeth's betrayal had shattered my world, but from those broken pieces, I had built something new and beautiful. And for that, I was grateful. A year had passed since the fateful discovery of Elizabeth's betrayal, and my life had taken on a new rhythm. The mornings were no longer filled with a sense of dread, but rather a feeling of quiet anticipation. The cottage I had moved into was now a true home, filled with books, plants, and the soft light of the early sun filtering through the trees. Catherine had become a constant presence in my life. Our relationship grew naturally, without the shadow of my past haunting us. She understood my scars and accepted them, helping me to heal in ways I hadn't thought possible. We spent weekends exploring nearby trails, attending local events, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was a simple life, but one that brought me immense joy. One Saturday, as we sat together on the porch, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Have you ever thought about writing your story, James?" she asked, her eyes filled with genuine curiosity. I paused, considering her question. Writing had always been a passion of mine, but the idea of putting my recent experiences into words felt daunting. Yet the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it could be a way to fully process what I had been through. "Yes, I think I have," I replied slowly. "It might be a way to finally close that chapter of my life." Catherine smiled, her hand gently squeezing mine. "I think it would be a wonderful way to share your journey and maybe even help others who've gone through similar experiences." With her encouragement, I began to write. The words flowed more easily than I had expected, each page a cathartic release of emotions that had been bottled up for so long. I wrote about the discovery of Elizabeth's infidelity, the pain and anger that followed, and the meticulous plan for revenge. But I also wrote about the rebuilding of my life, the new friendships I had formed, and the blossoming relationship with Catherine. As the manuscript took shape, I realized that my story wasn't just about betrayal and revenge. It was about resilience, healing, and the power of new beginnings. It was about finding strength in the face of adversity and discovering that, even after the darkest times, there is always a glimmer of hope. In the meantime, Elizabeth had faded into the background of my life. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved to a different city, trying to start over. The bitterness I had once felt towards her had diminished over time, replaced by a sense of indifference. She was a part of my past, a painful lesson, but no longer a defining factor in my present. One evening, as Catherine and I sat together reading, I received an email from a publisher interested in my manuscript. They believed my story had the potential to resonate with many readers and offered me a book deal. I was stunned, and a wave of emotions washed over me: pride, relief, and a deep sense of accomplishment. Catherine hugged me tightly, her eyes shining with happiness. "I'm so proud of you, James. This is just the beginning of something amazing." The publication of my book marked a new chapter in my life. It was well received, and I received letters from readers who had found solace and inspiration in my story. Knowing that my experiences had helped others was incredibly rewarding. With the book's success, Catherine and I decided to take a vacation to celebrate. We chose a small coastal town known for its beautiful beaches and serene atmosphere. It was the perfect getaway, allowing us to relax and enjoy each other's company without any distractions. One evening, as we walked along the shore, Catherine stopped and turned to face me. The setting sun cast a golden glow around her, making her look even more beautiful. "James, there's something I want to ask you," she said, her voice soft but steady. I looked at her, my heart beating faster. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, then smiled. "Will you marry me?" I was taken aback, not by the question itself, but by the realization of how far I'd come. From the depths of despair to this moment of pure joy, my life had transformed in ways I could never have imagined. Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Yes, Catherine, I will. I love you." Our wedding was a small, intimate affair, attended by close friends and family. It was a celebration of love, resilience, and new beginnings. As we exchanged vows, I felt a profound sense of peace. The scars of the past were still there, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they were a testament to my strength and the journey I had taken to find happiness once again. As we danced under the stars that night, I knew that the future held endless possibilities. With Catherine by my side, I was ready to embrace whatever came our way. Together, we had found a new beginning, and I was filled with hope and excitement for the life we would build together. Life with Catherine was everything I had hoped for and more. Our days were filled with simple joys and the kind of quiet contentment that comes from truly understanding and appreciating each other. Our new home was a sanctuary, a place where we could both thrive and grow. I continued to write, finding that the process was not only therapeutic, but also deeply fulfilling. My first book had opened doors I never imagined. Invitations to speak at events, book signings, and even a potential movie adaptation followed. But through it all, I remained grounded, always returning to the peaceful life Catherine and I had built together. One sunny morning, while we were enjoying breakfast on the porch, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "James, have you ever thought about teaching a writing course?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I considered her suggestion. I have always enjoyed mentoring others and sharing my passion for writing. "You know, that's not a bad idea," I replied, smiling at her. "I think I'd enjoy that." With Catherine's support, I started organizing a local writing workshop. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many aspiring writers eager to learn and share their stories. Teaching the course became a new passion, and I found immense satisfaction in helping others discover their voices and craft their narratives. Meanwhile, Catherine pursued her interests. She opened a small bookstore in town, a cozy place filled with hand-picked titles and comfortable reading nooks. It quickly became a beloved spot for locals and visitors alike. We often joked that between her bookstore and my writing workshops, we were creating a haven for book lovers. One evening, after a particularly successful workshop, I returned home to find Catherine waiting for me with a mischievous grin on her face. "I have a surprise for you," she said, taking my hand and leading me to the backyard. There, under the stars, was a small, beautifully decorated table with candles and a bottle of champagne. "What's all this for?" I asked, touched by her thoughtfulness. Catherine handed me an envelope. "Open it," she urged, her excitement palpable. Inside was a letter from a renowned literary foundation, offering me a fellowship to spend 6 months in a quiet, picturesque village in France, working on my next book. It was an incredible opportunity, one that I never dreamed would come my way. "Catherine, this is amazing," I said, pulling her into a hug. "But what about you? I don't want to leave you behind." She laughed, a sound filled with joy and love. "Oh, James, did you think I'd let you go alone? I've already arranged for the bookstore to be managed while we're away. We're going to France together." The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. We arrived in the quaint village, greeted by charming cobblestone streets, lush vineyards, and a warm, welcoming community. Our cottage was perfect, nestled at the edge of the town with a view of the rolling hills. Every morning I would wake up early and write, inspired by the beauty and tranquility around me. Catherine explored the village, made friends with the locals, and even started a small book club. In the afternoons, we would stroll through the vineyards, savoring the peacefulness and the simple pleasure of being together. The time in France flew by, and before we knew it, 6 months had passed. The experience had been transformative, not just for my writing, but for our relationship as well. We had grown even closer, sharing countless adventures and making memories that would last a lifetime. Upon returning home, we both felt a renewed sense of purpose and creativity. Catherine expanded her bookstore, adding a cozy cafe where customers could enjoy a cup of coffee while browsing. My new book, inspired by our time in France, was nearing completion and promised to be my best work yet. Our lives were busy but fulfilling, filled with love, laughter, and a deep appreciation for each other. We often reflected on how far we had come, from the pain and betrayal of the past to the joy and contentment of the present. One day, as we sat together in our garden, Catherine turned to me with a smile. "James, do you ever think about starting a family?" she asked, her voice soft and hopeful. The question took me by surprise, but as I looked into her eyes, I realized that the idea filled me with a sense of excitement and possibility. "I do, Catherine," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "I think we'd make wonderful parents." With that decision, a new chapter began. We started planning for our future, filled with dreams of a family and the life we wanted to build together. The journey had been long and often difficult, but it had led us to a place of profound happiness and fulfillment. As I sat there holding Catherine's hand and looking out at our beautiful garden, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the love we had found, for the life we had built, and for the future that lay ahead. Our story was far from over, and I knew that whatever challenges or joys came our way, we would face them together, with love and resilience guiding us every step of the way. Life had settled into a comfortable routine. Catherine and I were planning our future, excited about the prospect of starting a family. My new book was set to be published soon, and Catherine's bookstore cafe had become a beloved community hub. Everything seemed perfect. until the past resurfaced most unexpectedly. It was a chilly autumn afternoon when Elizabeth walked into Catherine's bookstore. I had been out running errands and returned to find Catherine looking pale and shaken. She gestured towards a secluded corner of the cafe where Elizabeth sat, nervously fidgeting with a cup of tea. My heart sank. It had been over a year since I had last seen her, and the sight of her brought back a flood of memories. Taking a deep breath, I approached the table, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Elizabeth," I greeted her, my voice steady. "What are you doing here?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and desperation. "James, I'm sorry for showing up like this. I didn't know where else to go." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice trembling. "I've lost everything, James. After the divorce, things went from bad to worse. I moved to a new city and tried to start over, but nothing worked out. I lost my job, my friends. I'm alone. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need help. Please." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to turn away, to tell her that she had made her bed and now had to lie in it. But another part of me, the part that had once loved her, felt a pang of sympathy. "I can't just forget what you did," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "You betrayed me, Elizabeth. You hurt me in ways I never thought possible." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I've regretted it every single day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need a second chance to rebuild my life." I glanced over at Catherine, who had been watching from a distance. She gave me a small, encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, I made a decision. "I can't promise you anything, Elizabeth, but I can help you get back on your feet. I'll lend you some money and help you find a place to stay. But after that, you're on your own." She looked up at me, gratitude and relief flooding her expression. "Thank you, James. I don't deserve it, but thank you." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I helped Elizabeth find a small apartment and lent her enough money to cover her initial expenses. Catherine and I set up a meeting with a career counselor to help Elizabeth find a job. Throughout it all, I kept my distance emotionally, wary of getting too involved. Despite the chaos, my relationship with Catherine remained strong. She understood my need to help Elizabeth, even if she didn't fully agree with it. We had long discussions about trust, forgiveness, and the complexity of human emotions. These conversations only deepened our bond, reinforcing the foundation of our relationship. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Catherine turned to me. "James, I know it's been hard dealing with Elizabeth's return, but I'm proud of you. It takes a big heart to offer help to someone who's hurt you so deeply." I smiled, grateful for her unwavering support. "Thank you, Catherine. I couldn't have done it without you." As the weeks turned into months, Elizabeth slowly began to rebuild her life. She found a job, started attending therapy, and made efforts to make amends with the people she had wronged. Our interactions became less frequent, but there was a sense of closure that hadn't been there before. In the end, helping Elizabeth was as much about healing myself as it was about aiding her. It was a final act of letting go, of releasing the last remnants of anger and resentment. It allowed me to fully embrace the future with Catherine, free from the shadows of the past. As winter gave way to spring, our lives continued to flourish. Catherine and I started preparing for the arrival of our first child, a new chapter filled with excitement and promise. The journey had been long and often painful, but it had brought us to a place of profound happiness and fulfillment. One afternoon, as we sat together in the garden, watching the flowers bloom, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The past was behind us, and the future stretched out before us, bright and full of possibilities. "Here's to new beginnings," I said, raising a glass of lemonade. Catherine smiled, her hand resting gently on her growing belly. "To new beginnings," she echoed, her eyes shining with love and hope. And with that, we turned the page, ready to write the next chapter of our lives together. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, our lives settled into a peaceful and joyous rhythm. Catherine's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and we eagerly prepared for the arrival of our baby. My new book was receiving rave reviews, and Catherine's bookstore cafe continued to thrive. It seemed like everything was falling perfectly into place. One bright morning, As we were sitting in the kitchen enjoying a quiet breakfast, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, I picked it up. "Hello, James speaking." There was a pause, then a voice I hadn't heard in years came through. "James, it's John." I was stunned. I hadn't expected to hear from John again after our last, somewhat reconciliatory meeting. "John, what's going on?" "James, we need to talk. It's about Elizabeth. Something's come up and you need to know about it. Can we meet?" My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. "All right, let's meet at the cafe near the park. I'll be there in an hour." I told Catherine about the call, and she looked at me with concern. "Do you want me to come with you?" she asked. "No, I'll handle this. But I'll call you as soon as I know what's going on," I assured her. At the cafe, I spotted John immediately. He looked haggard, a stark contrast to the confident man I'd met before. I sat down opposite him, my heart pounding. "What's this about, John?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. John took a deep breath, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Elizabeth contacted me a few weeks ago. She was in a really bad state, emotionally and financially. I helped her out, and we started talking again. But then she dropped a bombshell." I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. "What kind of bombshell?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Elizabeth told me she's pregnant, and she's claiming the baby is mine. But I've been trying to figure out the timeline, and something doesn't add up. She's been saying some things that made me wonder if there's more to the story. I started digging, and I found something. James, she was still seeing someone else during the last few months we were together." I was taken aback, a mixture of anger and disbelief surging through me. "Why are you telling me this, John?" "Because," he said, his eyes filled with sincerity, "I think you deserve to know the truth. Elizabeth's lies have hurt both of us. And now, with a child possibly involved, we need to figure this out." The revelation left me reeling. Elizabeth's deceit was deeper and more tangled than I had imagined. But amidst the shock and confusion, a new resolve took hold. I needed to confront Elizabeth one last time, to get to the bottom of this mess and protect my own family's future. That evening, I told Catherine everything. She listened, her face a mask of concern and determination. "James, you need to confront her. We need to know the truth for our peace of mind and for the sake of that child." I agreed, and with Catherine's unwavering support, I arranged to meet Elizabeth. We met at a small diner on the outskirts of town, a neutral ground where we could talk without distractions. Elizabeth looked worn and tired, a shadow of the woman she once was. As I sat down, I could see the anxiety in her eyes. "Elizabeth, we need to talk. John told me everything. Is it true? Are you pregnant? And is the child his?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. She looked down, her hands trembling. "Yes, I'm pregnant," she admitted. "But I'm not sure who the father is. I was seeing someone else for a while. I made a lot of mistakes, James. I don't know what to do." The weight of her words settled heavily between us. "Elizabeth, you need to be honest. Not just for your sake, but for the sake of your child. We can't keep living in the shadows of your lies." Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "You're right. I need to take responsibility. I'll do a paternity test once the baby is born. I'm so sorry, James, for everything." The confrontation was painful but necessary. It was a step towards untangling the web of deceit and finding some semblance of closure. Elizabeth agreed to keep us updated and promised to take the necessary steps to determine the baby's paternity. As I walked away from the diner, a sense of clarity washed over me. The past would no longer control my present or my future. I had faced the ghosts of my past and could now move forward with Catherine by my side. Returning home, I found Catherine waiting for me, her presence a beacon of strength and love. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "It's complicated," I replied, pulling her into a hug. "But we're one step closer to finding the truth, and whatever happens, we'll face it together." As the months passed, we focused on the upcoming arrival of our baby. The anticipation and joy of becoming parents overshadowed the lingering uncertainties. We prepared the nursery, attended parenting classes, and shared our hopes and dreams for our growing family. One afternoon, as we were setting up the crib, my phone buzzed with a message from Elizabeth. The paternity test results were in, and she wanted to meet. With a mixture of apprehension and determination, I agreed. Catherine came with me, her support unwavering. We met Elizabeth at the same diner, the atmosphere tense but charged with the possibility of resolution. Elizabeth handed me the envelope, her hands shaking. "Here are the results," she said softly. I opened it, my heart pounding. The results were clear. John was the father. A sense of relief and closure washed over me. The truth was finally out, and the weight of uncertainty lifted. "Thank you, Elizabeth," I said, my voice sincere. "I hope you and John can find a way to make this work, for the sake of your child." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, James. I'm sorry for everything. I truly am." As Catherine and I left the diner, I felt a renewed sense of peace. The past had finally been laid to rest, and the future stretched out before us, filled with hope and endless possibilities. Our baby arrived on a crisp spring morning, bringing with her a new chapter of joy and fulfillment. As I held her in my arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. The journey had been long and often painful, but it had led me to this moment, a moment of pure happiness and boundless love. With Catherine by my side and our beautiful daughter in my arms, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The past was behind us, and the future was ours to embrace. And so we turned the page, ready to write the next chapter of our lives, filled with love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. The arrival of our daughter Lily brought a joy and sense of fulfillment that Catherine and I had never known. Our days were filled with the laughter and cries of a newborn, and our nights were often sleepless but tender. Every moment with Lily was a precious reminder of the life and love we had built together. As we settled into our roles as parents, our bond grew stronger. We navigated the challenges of parenthood together, learning and adapting to each new day. Catherine's natural nurturing instincts and my deep commitment to our family created a harmonious balance that made even the toughest days manageable. One evening, as I rocked Lily to sleep, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. The pain and betrayal of the past seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the happiness and love that now filled our lives. It was in those quiet moments that I truly appreciated the resilience and strength that had brought us to this point. My writing continued to thrive, with my latest book receiving widespread acclaim. The success allowed me to spend more time at home, soaking in every precious moment with Catherine and Lily. Our home was a haven, filled with warmth, love, and the comforting routine of family life. Catherine's bookstore cafe had also become a beloved community gathering spot, and she found immense joy in connecting with customers and sharing her love of books. We often spent our weekends hosting events at the bookstore, from author readings to children's story hours. It was a way for us to give back to the community that had supported us through our journey. One sunny Saturday afternoon, as we were setting up for a children's book reading, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "James, have you ever thought about expanding the bookstore?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I considered her question, a smile spreading across my face. "You mean like opening a second location?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. There's a quaint little space available downtown, and I think it would be perfect for a second bookstore cafe. We could reach more people and create another cozy haven for book lovers." The idea intrigued me. It was a chance to grow our business and share our passion with an even wider audience. "I think it's a great idea, Catherine. Let's look into it." Over the next few weeks, we visited the potential new location and started planning the expansion. It was a thrilling new adventure, filled with the excitement of possibilities and the satisfaction of working together towards a shared dream. Meanwhile, our relationship with Elizabeth and John had evolved into a cordial, if distant, acquaintance. We maintained occasional contact, primarily concerning matters related to their child. It was a delicate balance, but it was manageable and allowed us to maintain the peace and focus on our own family. One evening, as we were preparing dinner, Catherine brought up an idea that had been on her mind. "James, I've been thinking, what if we started a charity or foundation, something that supports families and individuals who've gone through difficult times, like we did? We could use part of the proceeds from the bookstore and your book sales to fund it." I was touched by her generosity and vision. "That's a beautiful idea, Catherine. We could make a difference and help others find their way through tough situations." Inspired by our journey of healing and resilience, we began the process of establishing a foundation. We named it the New Beginnings Foundation, dedicated to providing resources, support, and counseling for those experiencing hardship, betrayal, or loss. It was our way of giving back, of using our experiences to bring hope and healing to others. As the foundation grew, we saw the impact of our efforts firsthand. People found solace in our story, strength in our resilience, and hope in our journey. It was incredibly rewarding to know that we were making a difference, helping others navigate their paths to recovery and happiness. Life continued to unfold in beautiful and unexpected ways. Our family flourished, and the love we shared deepened with each passing day. We cherished the small moments, from Lily's first steps to the quiet evenings spent reading together. Our home was a sanctuary, a place where love, laughter, and new beginnings thrived. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Catherine turned to me with a contented sigh. "James, do you ever think about how far we've come? How everything we went through led us to this moment?" I smiled, taking her hand in mine. "Every day, Catherine, and I'm grateful for every step of the journey. It brought us here, to this beautiful life we've built together." We sat in comfortable silence, the warmth of the setting sun washing over us. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of continued love and happiness. As we watched Lily play in the garden, her laughter echoing in the evening air, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the love we had found, the challenges we had overcome, and the future we were creating together. Our story was one of resilience, healing, and the power of new beginnings. And as we embraced the future, hand in hand, I knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together, with love guiding us every step of the way. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm once again. Lily was growing quickly, her curiosity and laughter filling our days with joy. The second location of our bookstore cafe was a resounding success, and our New Beginnings Foundation was making a real impact in the community. Everything seemed perfect until we faced an unexpected challenge that tested our resilience and commitment once more. It started with a routine checkup for Lily. She had been running a slight fever for a few days, and we wanted to make sure it was nothing serious. Catherine and I took her to our pediatrician, Dr. Roberts, who examined her thoroughly. "Lily has a mild infection," Dr. Roberts said reassuringly. "I'll prescribe some antibiotics, and she should be fine in a few days. But I noticed something during the examination. I'd like to run a few more tests just to be safe." His words sent a ripple of concern through me, but I tried to stay calm. "Is it something serious?" I asked, holding Catherine's hand tightly. "It's probably nothing," Dr. Roberts replied with a reassuring smile. "But it's always best to be thorough." A few days later, we returned to the clinic for the follow-up tests. The waiting was agonizing. Catherine and I held each other's hands, trying to stay positive and calm for Lily's sake. When Dr. Roberts finally called us into his office, his expression was serious, and my heart sank. "James, Catherine," he began, "Lily's test results indicate a rare genetic condition. It's treatable, but it will require ongoing medical care and monitoring." The room seemed to spin around me. The thought of our little girl facing such a challenge was overwhelming. Catherine's grip on my hand tightened, her face pale but determined. "What do we need to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear I knew she felt. Dr. Roberts explained the treatment plan, outlining the steps we needed to take to manage Lily's condition. It would involve regular visits to specialists, medication, and possibly surgery in the future. It was a lot to process, but we knew we had to stay strong for Lily. The days that followed were a blur of appointments and consultations. We met with pediatric specialists, genetic counselors, and other healthcare professionals who would be part of Lily's care team. Each meeting brought new information and more questions, but it also brought a sense of hope. We were surrounded by experts who were committed to helping Lily live a healthy, happy life. Despite the whirlwind of medical concerns, we did our best to maintain a sense of normalcy at home. We continued to run the bookstore cafe, participate in foundation activities, and enjoy family time. Lily's laughter and curiosity were constant reminders of why we needed to stay strong and positive. One evening after putting Lily to bed, Catherine and I sat in the living room, exhausted but determined. "We'll get through this, James," she said, her eyes shining with resolve. "We've faced so much already, and we came out stronger. We'll do the same now, for Lily." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for Catherine's strength and love. "We will," I agreed. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure Lily gets the best care possible. Our focus shifted to balancing Lily's medical needs with our everyday lives. We adjusted our schedules, coordinated with doctors, and leaned on each other for support. Catherine and I took turns attending appointments and staying home with Lily. It was challenging, but it also brought us closer together. One particularly difficult day, after a long appointment with a specialist, I returned home to find a surprise waiting for me. Catherine had prepared a special dinner, complete with candles and our favorite dishes. "I thought we could use a little celebration," she said, her smile warm and reassuring, "to remind us of the good things, even amid challenges." We sat down to dinner, and as we ate, we talked about our hopes and dreams for Lily's future. We shared our fears, but we also shared our determination to give her the best life possible. The conversation was a balm to our weary souls, a reminder that we were in this together. As the months passed, we found a new rhythm. Lily's condition became part of our lives, something we managed with the same love and care that we gave to everything else. The support from our community was overwhelming. Friends, family, and even customers from the bookstore rallied around us, offering help and encouragement. The New Beginnings Foundation took on a new significance for us. We expanded our focus to include support for families dealing with serious medical conditions. We hosted fundraisers and awareness events, and provided resources for others facing similar challenges. It was our way of turning our struggle into something positive, of giving back to the community that had supported us. One evening, as we were putting Lily to bed, she looked up at us with her big, trusting eyes and asked, "Will I be okay?" My heart ached at her innocence, but I smiled and stroked her hair. "Yes, sweetheart," I said gently. "You will be okay. We'll make sure of it." Catherine nodded, her eyes filled with love. "We're here with you, Lily. Always." As we watched her drift off to sleep, I felt a profound sense of peace. We had faced so many challenges, but we had always come through them stronger and more united. This new challenge was no different. With love, determination, and the support of our community, we would ensure that Lily had a bright and healthy future. And so, we moved forward, facing each day with courage and hope. Our story was one of resilience and the unbreakable bonds of family. No matter what the future holds, we know we will face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. The weeks following Lily's diagnosis were filled with a mix of anxiety and determination. We juggled doctor appointments, treatments, and our daily lives, always striving to maintain a sense of normalcy for Lily. Despite the challenges, our love for her and each other only grew stronger. One evening, after a particularly long day, Catherine and I sat in our living room, exhausted but resolute. "We need a break," she said, her eyes tired but hopeful. "A weekend away, just the three of us. It'll be good for us, and especially for Lily." I nodded, knowing she was right. We needed to recharge, to find moments of joy amidst the struggle. "Let's do it. We can go to the cabin by the lake. It's peaceful there, and Lily will love it." The following weekend, we packed up the car and headed to the cabin. The drive was scenic, with rolling hills and the first hints of spring coloring the landscape. Lily's excitement was infectious, and Catherine and I found ourselves smiling more than we had in weeks. The cabin was a small rustic retreat nestled by a serene lake. As we unpacked, Lily ran around exploring every nook and cranny. Her laughter echoed through the trees, a sound that lifted our spirits. We spent our days hiking, fishing, and playing by the water. The fresh air and beautiful surroundings were a balm to our weary souls. In the evenings, we sat by the fireplace, sharing stories and savoring the simple joy of being together. One afternoon, as we sat by the lake, Lily splashing in the shallow water, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "James, I've been thinking a lot about the foundation. There's so much more we can do, especially now that we understand what it's like to go through something like this." I looked at her, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" She smiled, her eyes shining with passion. "We can expand our programs to include more support for families dealing with chronic illnesses. Not just financial help, but emotional and psychological support too. We could partner with medical professionals, offer counseling services, and create a network of support groups." Her vision was inspiring, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. That's a fantastic idea, Catherine. We can make a real difference. Let's do it. Over the next few weeks, we threw ourselves into expanding the foundation's reach. We connected with local hospitals, doctors, and counselors, building partnerships that would allow us to offer comprehensive support to families in need. Our community rallied behind us, donating time, money, and resources to help us achieve our goals. One of the most impactful initiatives we launched was a series of workshops and support groups for parents and caregivers. We guest speakers, including medical experts and families who had faced similar challenges, to share their experiences and offer advice. The response was overwhelming, and we saw firsthand the difference our efforts were making. Among the attendees was a woman named Rebecca, who had a young son with a similar condition to Lily's. She approached us after one of the workshops, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for doing this," she said. "It means so much to know we're not alone, that there are people who understand and want to help." Her words resonated deeply with us. Our journey had been difficult, but it had also brought us to a place where we could offer hope and support to others. It was a powerful reminder of the impact we could have. As we continued to grow the foundation, our family life flourished. Lily's treatment was progressing well, and her doctors were optimistic about her prognosis. We celebrated each milestone, no matter how small, and cherished the time we spent together. One sunny afternoon, as we were playing in the park, Lily ran up to us with a bright smile. "Look, Mommy and Daddy, I made a new friend." She pointed to a little girl with curly hair and a shy smile. Catherine and I exchanged a knowing look, our hearts swelling with pride and joy. Despite the challenges, Lily was thriving. She was making friends, exploring the world, and filling our lives with love and laughter. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we sat on a bench, watching Lily play with her new friend. Catherine leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said softly. I nodded, wrapping my arm around her. "Yes, we have, and we'll keep moving forward, no matter what." Our journey was far from over, but we faced the future with hope and determination. We had built a life filled with love, resilience, and purpose. And with each new day, we were reminded of the incredible strength that came from facing challenges together. As we watched Lily chase fireflies in the fading light, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the love of my wife, the joy of our daughter, and the incredible journey that had brought us here. No matter what lay ahead, I knew we would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. And so we embraced the future, ready to write the next chapter of our story, a story of hope, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family. The passage of time brought with it new challenges and new triumphs. Our lives had become a delicate balance of managing Lily's medical needs, nurturing our growing foundation, and cherishing every precious moment we had together. Despite the hardships, our love and determination only grew stronger. One brisk autumn morning, as the leaves were beginning to turn brilliant shades of red and gold, we received an unexpected phone call that would once again change the course of our lives. It was Dr. Roberts, requesting an urgent meeting to discuss new developments in Lily's treatment plan. Catherine and I exchanged worried glances, but remained hopeful. We had faced so much already, and had learned to hold on to hope even in the most uncertain times. At the clinic, Dr. Roberts greeted us with a warm but serious expression. "James, Catherine, thank you for coming in on such short notice. I have some promising news about Lily's condition." My heart skipped a beat. "Promising news?" I repeated, leaning forward. Dr. Roberts nodded, his eyes twinkling with optimism. "Yes, a new treatment has been developed, specifically targeting the genetic markers associated with Lily's condition. The initial trials have shown remarkable results, and I believe Lily would be an excellent candidate for this therapy." The room seemed to brighten with his words. Catherine squeezed my hand, her eyes filling with hopeful tears. "What does this treatment involve?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. Dr. Roberts explained the details. The treatment would involve a series of specialized therapies and medications, administered over several months. While there were risks, the potential benefits were significant. It could vastly improve Lily's quality of life and even lead to long-term remission of her symptoms. After discussing the specifics and weighing the pros and cons, we made the decision. "We'll do it," I said, my voice firm. "We'll give Lily every chance at a healthier, happier life." The following months were a whirlwind of treatments and hospital visits. We faced each day with a mixture of anxiety and hope, watching as Lily bravely underwent the new therapy. Her resilience was nothing short of inspiring. Despite the discomfort and the long hours spent in medical facilities, she remained our little ray of sunshine, her spirit undimmed. Catherine and I took turns staying with Lily during her treatments, ensuring she was never alone. Our bond grew even stronger as we navigated this new chapter together. Friends and family rallied around us, offering support and encouragement. The community that had embraced our foundation now embraced us, providing meals, babysitting, and heartfelt messages of hope. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the hospital, we returned home exhausted but hopeful. As we sat down for dinner, Lily looked up at us with her big, curious eyes. "Mommy, Daddy, will I get better soon?" My heart ached at her innocence, but I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart," I said softly. "We're doing everything we can to make sure you get better." Catherine nodded, her eyes shining with love. "We're so proud of you, Lily. You're the bravest girl we know." Lily beamed at our words, her smile lighting up the room. At that moment, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the love of my family, for the hope that kept us going, and for the incredible strength that had brought us this far. As the weeks passed, we began to see the results of the new treatment. Lily's health improved gradually, but noticeably. Her energy levels increased, and she started to regain the vibrant spirit that had always defined her. Each small victory was a cause for celebration, a testament to the power of hope and perseverance. One sunny afternoon as we played in the park, I watched Lily run and laugh with a joy that had been absent for so long. Catherine stood beside me, her hand in mine, and we shared a look of profound relief and happiness. "She's getting better, James," Catherine said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "It's working." I nodded, my heart swelling with emotion. "Yes, she is, and so are we." The turning point came one crisp winter morning, when Dr. Roberts called us back to the clinic for a follow-up evaluation. After a thorough examination and reviewing the latest test results, he looked at us with a broad smile. "Lily is responding exceptionally well to the treatment. Her condition is stabilizing, and her prognosis is looking very positive." Tears of joy filled our eyes as we embraced Lily, overwhelmed with gratitude and relief. The nightmare we had been living for so long was finally giving way to a new dawn of hope and healing. That evening, as we celebrated the good news with our closest friends and family, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the love and support that had carried us through the darkest times, for the strength and resilience of our precious daughter, and for the bright future that now lay ahead of us. Catherine and I stood together, watching Lily play with her friends, her laughter filling the room. "We've come so far," Catherine said, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so proud of us, James. We never gave up." I nodded, wrapping my arm around her. "We faced every challenge together and will continue to do so. This is just the beginning of a new, beautiful chapter." As we held each other, surrounded by love and laughter, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it with hope, strength, and an unbreakable bond. Our journey had been long and often painful, but it had led us to this moment, a moment of pure happiness and endless possibilities. And so, we looked forward to the future with renewed hope, ready to embrace whatever came our way. Our story was one of love, resilience, and the incredible power of family. No matter what challenges lay ahead, we knew we would face them together, heart to heart, hand in hand. Life had started to return to a semblance of normalcy. Lily's health was steadily improving, and the dark cloud of uncertainty that had loomed over us for so long was beginning to lift. Catherine and I had found a new rhythm, one filled with hope and the promise of a brighter future. But just as we started to settle into this new chapter, the past came back to haunt us in a way we never expected. One crisp spring afternoon, I was at the bookstore cafe, finalizing the details for an upcoming event. Catherine was at home with Lily, enjoying some much-needed mother-daughter time. The cafe was bustling with customers, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the aroma of baked goods. As I sorted through a stack of new arrivals, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to check it. The message contained a single sentence that sent a chill down my spine. "I know everything about your wife's affair." My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Memories of the past, the betrayal, the pain, the anger, flooded back, overwhelming me. I thought we had moved beyond it, that we had built a stronger foundation on the ashes of what had been. But now, it seemed like those old wounds were about to be torn open again. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. This could be a prank, or a cruel attempt to disrupt the peace we had worked so hard to achieve. But I couldn't ignore it. I needed to know who was behind this and what their intentions were. Over the next few days, I received more messages. They were cryptic, filled with veiled threats and insinuations. Whoever it was knew details about Catherine's affair that had never been public. The messages suggested that if I didn't comply with their demands, they would expose everything, potentially destroying our reputation, our business, and the foundation we had built. I decided not to tell Catherine immediately. She had been through so much already, and I didn't want to burden her with more stress. Instead, I began to quietly investigate, trying to trace the source of the messages. One evening, as I sat in my study, poring over phone records and old emails, Catherine walked in. She looked concerned. "James, is everything okay? You've been so distant lately." I forced a smile, but I knew she could see through it. Just dealing with some business issues," I replied, trying to sound convincing. She frowned, clearly not satisfied with my answer. "If something is wrong, you can tell me. We're in this together, remember?" Her words hit me hard. She was right. We had faced every challenge together, and hiding this from her was not only unfair, but also counterproductive. I took a deep breath and decided to come clean. "There's something I need to tell you," I began, my voice shaking slightly. I showed her the messages, explaining everything I had done to try and find the person behind them. Catherine's face paled as she read the messages. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with fear and guilt. "James, I'm so sorry. I thought we had moved past this." "We have," I said firmly, taking her hand. "This isn't about what happened. It's about someone trying to hurt us, to tear us apart. We need to face this together, just like we've faced everything else." Over the next few weeks, we worked together to uncover the identity of the person behind the messages. It wasn't easy. The person was careful, using burner phones and anonymous email accounts, but our determination paid off. We eventually traced the messages back to an old acquaintance, Elizabeth. The revelation was a shock. Elizabeth had been a part of our lives, albeit peripherally, and we never suspected she harbored such resentment. Her motives became clear in a series of bitter emails we found. Jealousy, a sense of betrayal, and a desire for revenge had driven her to try and disrupt our lives. Confronting Elizabeth was one of the hardest things we had to do. We arranged to meet her in a public place, hoping to avoid a scene. When we confronted her with the evidence, she initially denied everything. But as we laid out the proof, her demeanor changed. She broke down, admitting to everything and expressing a twisted sense of satisfaction at the turmoil she had caused. "I was hurt," she said through tears. "I felt abandoned and betrayed. I wanted you to feel the same pain I did." Catherine looked at her with a mixture of pity and anger. "We're sorry for any pain we caused you, Elizabeth, but this isn't the way to handle it." Elizabeth's eyes filled with regret. "I know. I've lost so much and I didn't know how to cope. I'm sorry." We left the meeting feeling drained, but also strangely relieved. Confronting Elizabeth had brought closure to a painful chapter of our lives. We knew that healing would take time, but we were determined to move forward, stronger and more united than ever. Back at home, we sat together on the porch, watching the sunset over the horizon. Lily played in the yard, her laughter a soothing balm to our weary souls. "We've been through so much," Catherine said softly, leaning against me, "but we've come out stronger every time." I nodded, wrapping my arm around her, "And we'll keep doing that, together." As we sat there, I realized that our journey had been filled with trials and tribulations, but it had also been marked by love, resilience, and unwavering support. No matter what the future held, I knew we would face it side by side, ready to overcome any obstacle that came our way. Our story was far from over, but as long as we had each other, I knew we could handle anything. Together, we would continue to build a life filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. With Elizabeth's attempts to undermine us behind us, We tried to find our footing once more. Life returned to a semblance of normalcy, and the peace we had fought so hard to achieve seemed within reach. Lily continued to thrive, and our foundation flourished. But just as we began to relax, an unexpected discovery would shake our world once again. One evening, I was sorting through some old files in the attic, looking for a particular document related to the foundation. Catherine and Lily were downstairs, working on a school project together. As I sifted through the papers, I stumbled upon an old box I hadn't seen in years. It was filled with memories from the early days of our relationship, photos, letters, and mementos. I couldn't help but smile as I flipped through the old photographs, remembering the happy times we had shared. But as I dug deeper into the box, I found something that made my heart stop. A letter from Catherine, dated around the time of her affair. My hands shook as I unfolded the letter. The words on the page were raw and emotional, filled with guilt and regret. She had written it but never sent it, perhaps too ashamed to share her feelings with anyone. In it, she described her deep remorse and the reasons that had led her to stray. I felt so alone, she had written. We had grown so distant, and I needed someone to understand, someone to make me feel alive again. It was a terrible mistake, and I hate myself for hurting you. The pain of the betrayal I thought I had moved past surged back, sharper than ever. The letter wasn't just a reminder of her affair. It was a glimpse into a time when our marriage had been on the brink of collapse. I sat there, reeling from the shock, unsure of how to process this newfound pain. Catherine's voice called up from downstairs, jolting me back to the present. "James, are you okay up there?" I quickly shoved the letter back into the box, my mind racing. I couldn't hide this from her. We had vowed to face everything together, and this was no different. Taking a deep breath, I made my way downstairs, the letter clutched in my hand. When I reached the living room, Catherine looked up from the table where she and Lily were working on a craft project. Her smile faded as she saw my expression. "What's wrong?" "I found something," I said quietly, holding out the letter. "We need to talk." Catherine's face paled as she took the letter from my hand. She read it slowly, her eyes filling with tears. "James, I wrote this a long time ago. I never meant for you to see it." "I know," I replied, my voice heavy with emotion. "But I have seen it, and we need to talk about it." We sent Lily to bed early that night, promising her we would finish the project together tomorrow. Once she was asleep, we sat down in the living room, the letter between us like a barrier we needed to break through. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of hurt and anger. "Why did you keep this from me?" Catherine wiped her tears, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I was so ashamed, James. I felt like I had destroyed everything we had built, and I didn't know how to fix it." Writing that letter was my way of processing my feelings, but I couldn't bring myself to show it to you. I was afraid it would only make things worse. "We've come so far since then," I said, my voice softening. "But finding this letter, it brings back all the pain I thought I had buried. I need to understand why this happened, so we can truly move past it." Catherine nodded, taking a deep breath. "I was in a dark place, James. We both were. Our relationship had become strained, and I felt disconnected from you. When I met Greg, he was attentive and made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. It was a terrible mistake, one I regret every single day. But it wasn't about him. It was about the emptiness I felt inside." I listened, my heart aching for both of us. "I wish you had come to me," I said quietly. "I wish we could have faced those feelings together." "I know," she whispered. "I should have. And I'm so sorry, James. I never wanted to hurt you. I've spent every day since then trying to make up for that mistake, trying to show you how much I love you." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of the past pressing down on us. But as the minutes ticked by, I realized that this conversation, painful as it was necessary. It was another step toward healing, another test of our resilience. "I love you, Catherine," I said finally, "and I believe in us. We've faced so much together, and we've come out stronger each time. This is just another hurdle we need to overcome." She reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "I love you too, James, and I'm committed to us, to our family. We'll get through this, together." As we sat there holding hands, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I knew we would face it side by side. Our love had been tested time and again, but it had endured. And with each challenge we overcame, our bond grew stronger. The letter, once a symbol of pain and betrayal, became a catalyst for a deeper understanding and renewed commitment to each other. It reminded us of how far we had come and how much we had to fight for. And so, we faced the future with renewed hope and determination, ready to build a life filled with love, resilience, and endless possibilities. Our journey was far from over, but as long as we had each other, I knew we could handle anything that came our way. Together, we would continue to write our story, one of love, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bonds of family. In the aftermath of our conversation about the letter, Catherine and I were left with a mixture of relief and vulnerability. Confronting the past had been painful, but it also brought us closer. We knew that rebuilding trust would be a long journey, but we were committed to taking every step together. To start, we decided to see a couples therapist. Neither of us had ever been to therapy before, but we agreed that we needed an impartial third party to help us navigate our emotions and rebuild our relationship. We found Dr. Mitchell, a highly recommended therapist who specializes in relationship counseling. Our first session was nerve-wracking. Sitting in Dr. Mitchell's cozy office with its warm lighting and inviting atmosphere, I felt exposed. Catherine looked equally apprehensive, but we were determined to make this work. Dr. Mitchell greeted us with a kind smile. "Welcome, James and Catherine. I'm glad you're here. The fact that you're both willing to work on your relationship is a positive sign. Let's start by talking about what brought you here today." We took turns explaining our history, the affair, and the recent discovery of the letter. Dr. Mitchell listened attentively, occasionally jotting down notes. When we finished, she leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. "Trust is the foundation of any relationship," she began. "When it's broken, rebuilding it takes time, effort, and a willingness to be vulnerable. You both have made mistakes, but the important thing is that you're here, willing to work through them. Let's focus on communication and understanding, and together, we'll find a path forward." Over the next few weeks, we attended regular therapy sessions. Dr. Mitchell guided us through exercises designed to improve our communication and deepen our understanding of each other's feelings. We learned to express our emotions without judgment and to listen with empathy. One exercise that had a profound impact was the trust jar. Dr. Mitchell gave us a small glass jar and a bag of marbles. Each time we did something that built trust, whether it was sharing our feelings honestly, keeping a promise, or supporting each other, we added a marble to the jar. It was a tangible way to see our progress and remind ourselves that trust could be rebuilt, one step at a time. Outside of therapy, we made a conscious effort to spend quality time together. We went on date nights, took long walks, and shared our hopes and fears. We also made sure to involve Lily in our activities, reinforcing our bond as a family. One sunny Saturday, we decided to spend the day at the zoo. Lily had been asking to go for weeks, and we finally found the time. As we wandered through the exhibits, watching Lily's eyes light up at each new animal, I felt a deep sense of contentment. At one point, we found ourselves at the giraffe enclosure. Lily was thrilled, reaching out to feed the gentle giants with leaves provided by the zookeepers. Catherine and I stood back, watching her with smiles on our faces. "This is nice," Catherine said softly, slipping her hand into mine. "Just being together like this." I squeezed her hand, feeling a warmth spread through me. "It is. We've come a long way." As the weeks turned into months, we continued to make progress. The trust jar steadily filled with marbles, and our relationship grew stronger. There were still moments of doubt and fear, but we faced them together, always striving to move forward. One evening as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "James, I've been thinking about something." "What is it?" I asked, curious. "I think it's time we renewed our vows," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We've been through so much, and we've come out stronger. I want to celebrate our love and commitment in front of our friends and family. I want to show the world that we're still standing." Her words touched my heart. "I think that's a wonderful idea," I replied, pulling her into a hug. "Let's do it." We began planning a vow renewal ceremony, inviting our closest friends and family to join us in celebrating our journey. The preparations brought a sense of excitement and anticipation, a symbol of the new beginning we were embracing. On the day of the ceremony, the weather was perfect. We stood in a beautiful garden, surrounded by the people who had supported us through our toughest times. Lily was our flower girl, her smile radiant as she scattered petals along the aisle. As we exchanged our vows, I looked into Catherine's eyes and saw a reflection of my feelings, love, hope, and a deep sense of gratitude for the second chance we had been given. We promised to cherish each other, to support one another through thick and thin, and to continue building a life filled with love and trust. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a small reception. There was laughter, music, and heartfelt toasts from our friends and family. As the evening drew to a close, Catherine and I stood together, watching Lily dance with her friends. "We did it," Catherine said, her voice filled with pride. "We made it through the storm." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace and fulfillment. Yes, we did, and we'll keep moving forward no matter what. As we held each other, I realized that our journey was far from over, but we were ready to face whatever came next. We rebuilt our trust, strengthened our bond, and created a foundation that would carry us through any challenge. Together, we were unstoppable. Our story was one of resilience, love, and unwavering commitment. And as long as we had each other, I knew we could overcome anything. Our vow renewal ceremony had been a beautiful and healing experience. It symbolized a fresh start and reaffirmed our commitment to one another. Life seemed to be settling into a new normal, and we felt stronger and more connected than ever. However, just as we began to fully embrace this new chapter, an unexpected revelation threatened to unravel everything we had rebuilt. One rainy afternoon, as I was sorting through some old files in the office, I received a call from Greg. It had been years since our last interaction, and hearing his voice brought back a flood of mixed emotions. Greg's tone was serious, almost urgent. "James, I need to talk to you. It's important," he said. "What is it, Greg?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's about the affair," he replied. "There's something you need to know. Can we meet?" My heart sank. I thought we had put this chapter behind us, but Greg's call suggested otherwise. I agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe, determined to uncover whatever truth he was holding back. As I walked into the cafe, I spotted Greg sitting at a corner table, his expression grave. He stood up as I approached, offering a hesitant handshake. We sat down and he wasted no time getting to the point. "James, I've been carrying this guilt for a long time," Greg began. "There are details about the affair that Catherine might not have told you." My stomach churned with anxiety. "What do you mean?" Greg took a deep breath. "The affair wasn't just a one-time mistake. It went on for several months, and it was more serious than I initially led you to believe. Catherine was emotionally invested, and so was I. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know the full truth," Greg replied, his voice filled with regret. "I should have told you back then, but I was scared. And now, seeing you both rebuilding your lives, I couldn't keep this from you any longer." I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of Greg's words sinking in. The affair had been more than a momentary lapse in judgment. It had been a prolonged emotional relationship. This revelation felt like a fresh wound, reopening old scars. "Why now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because I've seen how much you've grown, how much you've worked to rebuild your marriage," Greg said. "And I realized that keeping this secret was wrong. You deserve to know the truth, even if it hurts." I left the cafe feeling numb. The drive home was a blur, my mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions. I knew I had to confront Catherine, but I dreaded the conversation that awaited me. When I walked through the door, Catherine greeted me with a smile, but her expression quickly turned to concern when she saw my face. "James, what's wrong?" "We need to talk," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. "I met with Greg today." Her eyes widened in surprise. "Greg? Why?" "He told me the full truth about the affair," I replied, struggling to keep my composure. "He said it wasn't just a one-time thing. It lasted for months, and it was serious." Catherine's face went pale, and she sank into a chair. "James, why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Why didn't you tell me the whole truth?" Tears welled up in her eyes. I was ashamed, James. I didn't want to hurt you more than I already had. I thought if I told you everything, it would destroy us. It almost did, I said, my anger giving way to a deep, aching pain. But we rebuilt our lives on trust and honesty. How can we move forward if there are still secrets between us? Catherine sobbed, burying her face in her hands. I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was only protecting myself. I love you, James, and I never wanted to lose you. I took a deep breath, trying to process the overwhelming emotions. We've come so far, Catherine, but we need to be honest with each other. No more secrets. If we're going to move forward, it has to be with complete transparency. She looked up at me, her eyes red and filled with remorse. I promise, no more secrets. I'll tell you everything. That night we sat down and had the most difficult conversation of our lives. Catherine recounted every detail of the affair, her voice trembling with guilt and regret. It was excruciating to hear, but it was also necessary. We needed to confront the full truth if we were ever going to truly heal. In the days that followed, we both struggled to come to terms with the new information. There were moments of anger, sadness, and doubt, but there were also moments of understanding and reconciliation. We leaned on each other, finding strength in our love and commitment. We continued our therapy sessions with Dr. Mitchell, who helped us navigate this new challenge. She reminded us that healing is a process, and it's okay to have setbacks as long as we keep moving forward. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, Catherine and I sat on the porch, watching the stars. We've been through so much, she said softly. But I believe in us, James. I believe we can get through this. I nodded, taking her hand in mine. We've faced every challenge together, and we'll face this one too. Our love is stronger than any obstacle. As we sat there holding hands and looking up at the night sky, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but I knew that as long as we had each other, we could overcome anything. Our journey was far from over, but we were ready to face whatever came our way. Together, we would continue to rebuild, one step at a time, with love, honesty, and unwavering commitment. As Catherine and I continued to navigate the fallout from Greg's revelation, we found ourselves facing yet another challenge. While our commitment to rebuilding trust and maintaining honesty had strengthened our bond, the lingering presence of unresolved issues kept casting shadows over our relationship. We knew that to truly move forward, we needed to confront the past one last time and seek closure. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Catherine and I sat down to discuss the next steps. The weight of our recent struggles hung heavy in the air, but there was also a sense of determination between us. James, Catherine began, her voice steady but soft, I think it's time we confront Greg together. We need to hear everything from him, face to face, so we can put this behind us once and for all. I nodded, understanding her need for closure. I agree. We've come this far, and we can't let anything hold us back now. We arranged to meet Greg at a neutral location, a quiet park where we could talk without interruptions. On the day of the meeting, my nerves were on edge, but I knew this was a necessary step. Catherine and I arrived early, finding a secluded bench where we could wait. Greg arrived shortly after, looking somber. He approached us with a tentative expression, clearly unsure of how this meeting would unfold. As he sat down, the tension was palpable, but we were all determined to get through this. Thank you for meeting us, Catherine said, breaking the silence. We need to hear the full truth from you, Greg. No more secrets. Greg nodded, taking a deep breath. I understand. You both deserve the truth, and I owe it to you. Over the next hour, Greg recounted his side of the story, filling in the gaps and providing context for the affair. He spoke about the emotional connection he had with Catherine, the struggles in his own life that had led him to make such poor choices, and his deep regret for the pain he had caused. As Greg spoke, I felt a mixture of emotions, anger, sadness, and a surprising sense of relief. Hearing the full story, painful as it was, brought clarity. It allowed me to see the affair in a different light, not as an isolated betrayal, but as a consequence of deeper issues that had affected all of us. When Greg finished, there was a long silence. Finally, Catherine spoke, her voice filled with emotion. Greg, I'm sorry for the part I played in all of this. We both made mistakes, and we've all suffered because of them. But we're here to find closure, to move forward. Greg nodded, tears in his eyes. I'm truly sorry for everything. I hope you both can find peace and happiness. With those words, we stood up, the weight of the past beginning to lift. As we walked away, I felt a sense of closure that had eluded us for so long. We had faced the truth, confronted our demons, and emerged stronger for it. In the weeks that followed, Catherine and I focused on continuing to rebuild our lives. Our trust jar, now overflowing with marbles, stood as a testament to our progress. We celebrated small victories, cherished moments of connection, and supported each other through the challenges that remained. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Catherine turned to me with a thoughtful expression. James, we've been through so much, but we've come out stronger. I'm proud of us. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Me too. We've faced every challenge together, and we'll keep doing that. Our love has grown through this, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we held each other close, knowing that our journey was far from over, but confident in our ability to face whatever came next. We had found closure, and with it, a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to our future. Our story was one of resilience, forgiveness, and unwavering love. No matter what challenges lay ahead, we knew we could overcome them together. And with each passing day, we continued to build a life filled with hope, trust, and endless possibilities. With the past finally laid to rest, Catherine and I focused on the present and future. Our relationship, once marred by secrets and betrayal, had transformed into a testament of resilience and unwavering love. We knew that our journey was far from over, but we felt more equipped than ever to face whatever challenges lay ahead. A few weeks after we met with Greg, we decided to take a short family vacation to the mountains. It was something we had always talked about, but never found the time to do. We rented a cozy cabin near a serene lake, hoping to create new memories and solidify the fresh start we had worked so hard to achieve. The morning we left, the sky was a brilliant blue, and the air was crisp with the promise of adventure. Lily was especially excited, bouncing in her seat as we drove through winding roads and lush forests. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Catherine and I found ourselves smiling and laughing, a sense of lightness enveloping us. When we arrived at the cabin, we were greeted by the breathtaking view of the lake, its surface shimmering in the sunlight. The cabin itself was quaint and inviting, with a stone fireplace and large windows that offered panoramic views of the surrounding mountains. Our days were filled with simple pleasures. We hiked through forest trails, discovering hidden waterfalls and watching deer graze in the distance. We spent afternoons fishing by the lake, teaching Lily how to cast a line, and cheering when she caught her first fish. In the evenings, we gathered around the fireplace, roasting marshmallows and telling stories, the warmth of the fire matching the warmth in our hearts. One evening, as we sat by the lake watching the sunset, Catherine leaned her head on my shoulder. "This is perfect," she said softly. "I feel like we've finally found our peace." I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "We have, and we've earned it. This is our new beginning." Lily ran up to us, her face glowing with excitement. "Look, Mom and Dad, I found a heart-shaped rock." She held up a small, smooth stone, its shape remarkably like a heart. Catherine and I exchanged a smile, recognizing the symbolism. "That's beautiful, Lily," Catherine said, taking the rock from her and examining it closely. "We'll keep it as a reminder of this special time." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the lake, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had been through so much, but we had emerged stronger and more united. This trip wasn't just a vacation, it was a celebration of our journey and the love that had carried us through the darkest times. Returning home, we brought with us a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to continue nurturing our relationship. The trust jar remained a central part of our daily lives, each marble a symbol of our ongoing effort to build and maintain trust. Our foundation work also flourished, with new projects and initiatives that brought us closer to our community and each other. We found joy in giving back, in seeing the positive impact of our efforts, and in working side by side to create a better future. As time passed, we continued to face life's challenges with resilience and love. We knew that our story was far from over, but we were ready to write each new chapter together. With every step, we embraced the lessons of our past and looked forward to the endless possibilities of our future. Our journey was one of redemption and hope, a testament to the power of love and the unbreakable bonds of family. And as long as we had each other, we knew we could overcome anything, creating a life filled with joy, trust, and unwavering commitment. Our return from the mountains marked the beginning of a new era for our family. The peace and connection we found there continued to infuse our daily lives, guiding us as we moved forward. Catherine and I had transformed our relationship, turning a story of betrayal into one of resilience and love. Now, we were ready to embrace the future with open hearts and minds. One sunny Saturday morning, Catherine and I decided to spend the day working on a project that had been close to our hearts for a while. We wanted to create a garden in our backyard, a space that would symbolize growth and renewal, much like our journey. Lily was excited to help, eager to get her hands dirty and be a part of something special. We spent the morning planning and preparing. Catherine sketched out the design, incorporating a mix of vibrant flowers, hardy vegetables, and a small herb section. Lily chose a spot for a bird bath, insisting that it would make our garden a haven for all kinds of birds. As we worked, laughter and conversation flowed easily, the joy of shared purpose binding us even closer. As the afternoon sun warmed our backs, we began planting. Each seed and sapling was a symbol of our commitment to nurturing and growing, not just the garden, but our lives together. We worked side by side, our hands in the soil, our hearts aligned. After hours of planting, we stepped back to admire our work. The garden was a patchwork of colors and textures, a living testament to our collective effort. We stood together, dirt-streaked and tired but deeply satisfied. "This is just the beginning," Catherine said, her voice filled with pride. "In time, this garden will flourish, just like we have." I nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. It's a symbol of everything we've been through and everything we've built together. Lily ran up, holding a small watering can. "Can I water the plants, Dad?" "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, handing her the hose. "Just be gentle." As Lily carefully watered the new plants, Catherine and I shared a quiet moment, our hands intertwined. We had come so far, and our garden was a beautiful reminder of our journey. That evening after dinner, we sat on the porch, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. The garden, illuminated by soft lights, looked magical. Lily was in bed, and it was just Catherine and me, savoring the tranquility of the moment. "We've created something beautiful here," Catherine said, her voice soft. "Not just the garden, but our life together." I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. We have, and I'm excited for what the future holds. As we sat there, enveloped in the serenity of our home, I realized that we had truly embraced the future. We had taken our past and transformed it into a foundation for growth and love. Our garden would flourish, just as we had, nurtured by our commitment and care. In the days and months that followed, our lives continued to blossom. The garden became a source of joy and reflection, a place where we could connect with nature and with each other. It served as a constant reminder of our resilience and the power of love. We also continued our work with the foundation, finding new ways to give back and make a difference. Each project we undertook brought us closer to our community and reinforced our bond as a family. One evening, as we sat in the garden, watching Lily chase fireflies, Catherine turned to me with a smile. "James, we've built something truly special. No matter what comes our way, I know we'll face it together." I smiled back, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. Together always. Our journey had been one of challenges and triumphs, but through it all, we had found our way back to each other. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and as long as we had each other, I knew we could overcome anything. With love, trust, and unwavering commitment, we would continue to write our story, embracing each new chapter with open hearts and boundless hope.